Our guest today on Transition Talks is Tyree Washington, a 400-meter world champion in track and field, a former NFL player, a former law enforcement peace officer, a motivational speaker, and a trainer. Tyree enjoyed a diverse athletic career, playing in both the NFL for the San Diego Chargers and competing in the Olympics. Tyree now works as a speaker and a trainer, sharing his success principles to help motivate audiences to overcome adversity and take action towards realizing their destiny. Tyree Washington, welcome to Transition Talks, and thank you for joining us.
Well, I appreciate it, Evan, man. It's always a pleasure to be able to share my story, because as I always tell people, stories change lives. So, and that's the business I'm into. It's like I want people to get better and to be happier.
I just wanted to touch real briefly, you had this incredibly successful Olympic career, competitive career in track and field, and then you transitioned to football. Was that always planned, or how did that come about?
Well, I mean, in high school, I played football and I ran track. But going back before that, I mean, just as a young boy, I was playing popular football, and football was everything for me. Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton, those are two athletes I looked up to. And so when it got to a point where I was heavily recruited all over the country to play football, it's just that so many people, they thought that I was going to go for the track route, but they didn't realize that my heart and my passion was in football. And so that's why I signed in high school. I signed with the University of Oregon, and things didn't quite work out. And I mean, I talk more deeply about it in my book. And I mean, a lot of it's out there with my academic issues, but there was some other stuff that happened. But for the most part, for me, it's like, football was like my everything. That was like my world, and my goal to make it to the NFL.
So that was always part of the plan for you. You just maybe not verbally out there while you were competing at the high level track and field, but maybe in the back of your mind, you kind of always had that there.
I ran track, won all these gold medals, but honestly, when I look back at it, my heart was like, I give everything 100%, but I just didn't. If I had a choice of if I was going to be on the track winning a gold medal or playing NFL, I'm going the NFL route. I'm ditching the track and field and winning the gold medals. That's where my passion was at. And a lot of people, they were looking at me like I'm crazy. Like Dick Pratchett from USA Today, he's like, well, when I told him I was going to go back to the NFL, I want to go to the NFL. He's like, why? Like, you're doing all these great things in track and field, and you're dominating. You're one of the top 400-meter runners in the world. But that's where my heart was. My heart wasn't really there. Yeah.
Very cool. And awesome for you too, because you got to do both. You got to compete at every level in both sports. So you definitely made some good decisions along the way to put you in that position. Would love to kind of start talking about the end of your career. And so, every athlete goes through this, whether it's planned or whether it's sudden. And so share for us real briefly, kind of how did the end of your career come about?
Well, I remember I was getting ready for the 2008 Olympic trials and track and field, and things I was going through so many personal problems in my life, and it was really rocky. I wasn't training good. And so I qualified for the Olympic trials, went to Eugene, Oregon. And I remember just that feeling that I had. It was that I'm not really equipped to really battle these top 400-meter runners in the U.S. But with anything with me, I'm always putting up the good fight. And so I went in it, and I got to about 150 meters to go in my race. And I remember I just had this epiphany. I was like, dude, this is over with. This is it. It's your career is done. It's a wrap. And so I finished the race, and then I walked off and went into the tent. All the media was there, and they're like, "Hey, Ty, what's next for you?" And I said, "I retired." And a lot of some of the media were like, "Well, we heard that before," and then that was it. So I knew right then and there at the 2008 Olympic trials that in my race that it was over for me. And it was really tough, because I spent over a decade just traveling the world, being one of the top 100 meters running the world. And it was like the hourglass that it was turned over, and that last drop of sand hit, and then it was done. Lights turned off in the stadium. That's it. Tyree's career is over with.
And were you preparing for this moment? You said, it happened in a moment, and this happens to a lot of athletes, right? Either in competition with an injury, or maybe a team is telling you that you're not good enough anymore. So was this something you were planning on, or had you done any type of anticipatory management for your post-career after athletics?
Well, I knew that it was coming to an end. I mean, it was evident. And so I was already working with athletes. I was always training people as a personal trainer. And that's what I wanted to go into, because I wanted to also obviously pass the time of all the things I learned in my career, and just really help build people up. And so, but even though you know what you're supposed to do after, like you have this plan, even though you have a plan as for the life after sports, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go. And for me, it was just, it's like, it was hard because I left a world that I was used to, that every, from the sun up to sundown, I knew what I was supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, like, I had these slots in my schedule. And even though I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer, I'm trying to build my business up, I still felt that void. I still felt lonely. I still felt scared. And I'm just like, well, what am I doing? And there was a part of me that, even though I retired, I still wanted to go back just to be there, just be around my peers. And I think that's hard for a lot of athletes at times, is that they're used to being with their teammates, their brothers and sisters in arms. And then one day it's just like me, like lights turn off, the last stand, hourglass hit, and they're like, your career's over with, and you're no longer with them. And so you're going to a whole nother world. And it's just like same thing with the military. It's just that you go from being a soldier to the civilian world. And a lot of people don't really understand the mentality and just as far as what you've been through. And so it's that, I think that's really tough, not just for me, but for many athletes around the world.
Yeah, and you made the comparison to somebody that's in the military, and I think that that's 100% applicable when you're talking about it, because as you mentioned a moment ago, the routine and knowing where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do every single day, and then transitioning to this period where you don't have that routine or you don't have that structure. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like right afterwards. Like, did you struggle at all filling up your schedule, as you put it, or what were some of the challenges that you faced with for really the first time in your life having this uncertainty or lack of structure in your schedule?
When I retired, my financial situation was not good at all. It was tough. So it was like, being a track and field athlete, there's no retirement, there's no pension. You can do 5, 10, 15 years. You can win multiple gold medals and be on top of the world, have all these accolades, but there's no retirement. And so if you haven't invested your money in the right places to where you're gonna be able to receive that constant revenue stream of money every month, it's like you go from you're making the money to where you hardly have any money. And if you don't even have, if you don't have a degree to where to go into a certain industry that you majored in, it's like that's even hard. And so for me, it was just, I'm just like, okay, well, I knew I wanted to be a trainer, and I wanted to be one of the best trainers out there. And I knew that I wanted to share my story like 20 something years ago, but I didn't really know how to package it. And one thing that David Metzer, who's the CEO of Sports One Marketing with Warren Moon, he said something that was so profound to me. He said, and we were having a conversation, he said that when you're trying to get to the top, when you're trying to be this elite athlete, you got all these great people around you. But when you retire, he's like, all of a sudden you start getting rid of those people. And so you're back to square one. He said, if athletes want to continue the greatness and continue to be successful, is you have to keep those people around you. And for me, a lot of those people I had in my life that were helping me reach that greatness, it's just, they were kind of weeding out. Everybody was kind of going their own separate ways because of just personal issues, because of business, whatever. And I found myself just being lonely, even though I knew what I wanted to do. And I'll tell you, like, I got involved in alcohol. I was drinking alcohol just heavily. And not so much, it wasn't so much of I'm trying to fix my problems. I just wanted just to get away, because I just didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to be part of that world, this world. It was like, I was used to the world I was in. I was used to the athletic world, the athletic bubble. But now the civilian world, I was like, this is not working for me.
Obviously you had this long career, but there still is kind of like that period where you're almost grieving the loss of your career. It's really hard to know how to cope with that. And you mentioned also the people around you. So I want to talk about these two things. When you reflect back on that, was it that you necessarily weren't keeping the right type of people around you, or was it just kind of like a natural progression where you were an athlete at a certain status and these people no longer either had use for you, or you just weren't going to be in the constant contact you were in previously?
Well, I had good people around me. I try to keep my circle tight, from just like how I grew up as a young boy, and just like a lot of the heartache and pain and the trauma that I've gone through. But I mean, I had my agents, but it was like my career ended. And so my agents, they continued on to do what they do, as you know, and to work with other athletes. And then when it's amazing, Evan, when you're doing good in your career and you know this, it's like, and you're at the height of it, everybody wants to be around you. Phone's always ringing, right? And people always want to talk to you. But then all of a sudden, when you have the decline, people just, they scatter and they're just gone. And there's very few of them that are going to, be there and to just still, like, they're going to lift you up when you fall down. And they're going to give you that encouragement. They're going to give you that pep talk, just like your coaches did for years. And so for me, that was just really, really tough. And then the other issue is the trust. You're like, who do I trust now? And because you don't know who's really sincere, who has this unconditional love for you. And I think that for me and many other athletes, it's really hard because everybody loves you when you're doing good. But the minute you drop, they're gone. Majority of them are gone. Now, I say not all of them, but a lot of them are gone.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't quite realize this because, like you said, it's very intoxicating to be at the top and to be everybody wanting to be around you and wanting a piece of you. So it's kind of hard to understand that some of these people may not be here when all of this is said and done. And I'm curious for you, like, we talk about support system a lot, and sometimes that comes in the form of family. Sometimes it comes in the form of friends. Sometimes it does come in the form of agents and people that you work closely with. Who was your support system as you kind of made this transition into the next phase of your life?
Yeah, so my coach, Blackman Ehem, which I mean, aka I call him Pops, like call him Pops, and he was the one that pulled me when I gave up my scholarship to University of Oregon, and he was watching me for 4 years in high school running track, and he was like, "You're gonna be this great 400-meter runner," and so he pulled me in and he made me great. But he's been in my life for 20-something years. He's the one that I can call to this day. I mean, we're just talking last night, 11 o'clock at night, and I call him 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it may be, and he's like, he's my mentor. He's like my role model. And he's not a yes person either. He's not somebody because Tyree Washington won these gold medals, paying for. He can care less about that.
He tells you like it is.
He gives it to me straight. I always tell him. I told him like last week. I said, "Man, you're my customado." Just like Mike typing in customado. I said, "You're my customado." Like when you get down, like what do you do? Like, and who do you call? Who's your lifeline? And I say, Pops is my lifeline. But yeah, Pops is like he's God sent. I mean, and we went through it in our career. We had our issues. We battled on the track, and I mean, there was time like it was just I'm on one end doing 300s, and he's telling me I got another one. I'm tired. And I'm cussing at him, and he's cussing at me. He's like, "You better get your butt on the line," and because he knows where I want to go. He sees the vision. He sees like, "Hey, you're great. So you want to be on that podium, and you want to do all these phenomenal things." So, yeah, that's my custom model.
Love it. Yes. Somebody that holds you to high standards, regardless of whether you want to hear it or not. And we all need that in our lives.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not the easiest medicine to take, but it's necessary. You spoke about having kind of like a tight inner circle, and that's really important to have people that are going to have your back regardless of whether you're standing on the podium. That's great. But also as you're going through the challenging times and the transition. And I know that you speak a lot about adversity, and you mentioned earlier about some of your struggles. And we always kind of talk on this show about some of the mental and physical struggles. And so, we don't have to go too deep into it, but just curious, as you're kind of going through this time, like how did you end up coming out of this period in your life where you said, you were, using alcohol, and so how did you come out of that part of your life?
Well, I think, the most important thing is that you have to attach yourself to good people. You have to attach yourself to people that are not yes people that are going to give you that constructive criticism, and they're going to tell you, and they're going to direct you on the right path. And and people that are going to remind you about, remind you how great you are and the great things that you can be able to do in life. Because everybody, to me, is great. They have greatness within them, and everybody has a talent. I don't care. You don't have to be some supermodel, some famous athlete, or some rich person. I mean, we all have greatness inside of us. And I think to me, it's like, that's what I attach myself to, like Pops, like my custom model, and give me the constructive criticism. He says, we have to go back to square one. I want you to go back writing your goals, where you want to be. And then I'm like, you're going to give me your goals. Like, I'm going to give him my goals. He's going to hold me accountable for them and call me up and meet with me and make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And just in this, in the mindset too, is just that it's just about being positive, being optimistic that things are going to get better. I think a lot of times is that we were like, it's like got that microwave mentality. We want something like right now, but things take time. They just don't develop overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It took time to build Rome. And so we have to do the exact same things. Is just set our goals. We have to visualize where we want to be. We have to think positively, because whatever you put out there in the world is going to come back to you. And I always tell people that whatever you watch, whatever you read, whatever you listen to on the radio, and whoever you hang around with, if they're negative, you're going to get negative. But if they're positive, you're going to get positive back into your life. And so for me, that was like, that's something that Pops instilled in me. And that's something I'm constantly thinking about. And then I got an opportunity to work with Jack Canfield, who was phenomenal, the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And just his mindset is off the charts, and just his positivity and about just finding out your purpose and your passion in life, and keep pushing forward no matter what. And
what I also really like about your message is the same mentality, the same things that made you successful as an athlete were the same things that your coach was prescribing for you to do as you went into this transition.
Yeah, no, he did.
He was telling you to like make goals. He was telling you and letting you know that it was going to be a process and there were going to be no quick fixes.
No, there's not. And the first day of practice, Pops told me, he said, you were a professional athlete in college. And I talk about this a lot, all the time. And I'm like, dude, first of all, I'm at a JUCO. Okay, I'm not even a professional athlete. I didn't sign no contract, okay? No pro contract. But he said, son, you haven't signed one yet. You haven't even, but he said, you haven't signed one yet. And he said, yes, you haven't become a pro, but you're going to become a pro. So he said, I want you to think like one. I want you to dress like one, you practice like one. I want you to compete like one. I want you to do everything that a pro athlete does. Because he said, when you act like that now, and when you become one, it's not going to be a culture shock for you. And it's crazy. 9 months later, you know what happened, Evan? I was at Indianapolis competing against the best quarter milers in the world. I mean, I was on front center stage, man, in front of everybody. All like NBC, ESPN, everybody was there, man. And I perform at that level. So when I'm looking at these top quarter milers, I'm just like, it's no biggie. Like I've already been trained like a pro athlete. I've been thinking like one. I dress like one. I'm one of them. This is home for me. And so I think that's the mentality. And that's what Pops instilled in me. He said that we have to, whatever you like say, it's like, whatever you want to do in life, act that way like right now. And even at that transition with athletes is that even though they may not be an entrepreneur, they may not be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it may be, you can start acting like that now. You can gradually start doing certain things, taking internships, get your business cards, get your websites, go to business mixers, do all these things, start, shaking hands with people, like let them know who you are. Because the misconception is that a lot of pro athletes, they believe that, well, just because I did phenomenal in my career, then when I retire, everybody's gonna know about me. They're gonna have their arms wide open for me. But it doesn't happen that way. I mean, a lot of times people don't even know your name. People don't know my name. They're like, okay, who's Tyree Washington? And then it's like you got to go back and you got to retrack and you got to tell them a story, right? It's like you're constantly just re-interviewing again. And I always tell my athletes now when I'm training them, I say, we're constantly campaigning. It's just like any of the presidential candidates right now. For years, they're on their campaign tour and they're going to different cities, they're going to different states, and they're campaigning to get their name out there because they want those votes. And I believe it's the same thing. It's just like with business and whatever you want to do. And it's just part of that networking is you have to be on the campaign trail and getting people to know who you are and not have this ego and even this narcissist behavior like, well, you know what? I mean, everybody's going to know me and they're going to just welcome me with open arms. And it doesn't happen that way. Get out there on the foot trail, man, and just let people know you are, and be humble, don't be prideful, and just tell your story because people want to hear stories.
Because this is not going to be something that happens in the blink of an eye or, in the span of a couple of months. You're going to have to basically start back at the bottom and kind of slowly build up your foundation of new contacts, getting into a new business and exploring new things. And I think also too, failing. And I think that's really important for people to understand is that,
yes.
I really believe a lot in growth mindset and I coach it a lot. And I mean, talking about the ability to reframe those failures in your mind and look at them as learning experience.
It's okay to fail. I mean, I think it is like, when you're at like that elite level and you're doing phenomenal, people think that you're almost immortal, like you're unbreakable. There's no weakness. But the fact of the matter is, I am weak. I drop the ball every single day. My wife will tell you that. Like, I mean, and so firsthand, she will tell you. But it's all about getting back up and just taking those steps and trying to work towards getting better. See, look, at many years ago, and this is an athlete, Kevin, our coaches told us, they said, oh, practice makes perfect. That was the biggest lie ever. I'm like, first of all, practice does not make you perfect, because you can go out there, you can play in a game, and you can have a great performance, but it's not gonna be a perfect performance because there's something you've done wrong. And my coach in 2003, he proved that to me, because when I came off an 18-month hiatus, right? It's like I won 2 world titles, 2 national titles, indoor and out. I was undefeated. I was the #1 quarter mile in the world. So when I was getting ready for the 2004 Olympics, we're watching film. My coach is like, he looked at my race. He's okay, you're too slow here. You drop your arms here. The range of motion wasn't good. There's too much back kick. But yet here I am. I was undefeated, 2 world titles, 2 national titles. I'm the baddest dude on the planet. He's just ripping me up. But he's just showing me that, listen, nothing is ever perfect. But you can get better and you can have a great performance. And so I think that's why we have to look at, is that society at times, is that, especially with social media and all this stuff, everybody's having the filters, they're taking the right angles, and nobody's trying to be organic. I'm like, just be organic, just be authentic, and just be who you are. It's okay, because there's 7-point-something billion people on our planet. If somebody's bound to like you sooner or later. You're gonna run into somebody, they're gonna like you, right? They're gonna like the way you talk, they like the way you dress. I mean, they're like, all these companies, like you may get a 999 no's, but you may get that one yes change your life. So it's like, we got to keep pushing forward. Like, and I think it goes back to that positive mindset, thinking about positive people, and taking that constructive criticism, because failure is a teaching moment. It's a teaching moment. So you're going to learn within it, because you're going to learn what not to do. All right. Have I done this over and over again? So I'm not going to do that anymore. Because just like Dr. Phil would talk about, he said the definition of insanity is we do stuff over and over again, expecting different results. And it's so true. You gotta break that cycle. Don't be the dog just chasing his tail in a circle. It's like we have to stop and kind of reevaluate, reboot the system, and say, you know what? I've been doing this for X amount of years, and this is not working. I can do something differently. And so I think that's what's important. Just as far as reaching success, being happier, being at peace, and like I said, and just being organic. Just be you. It's okay.
We all went through this as athletes. Not every practice is a great practice.
No.
A moment ago, even when you ran great races, Pops was right there kind of critiquing everything
Right.
along
Right.
the way. And that's so crucial. And it's crucial to understand that going into kind of this next phase in life too. And you're talking a lot about, connecting with people. And I think that's also important. You made a great point. Not everybody's your best friend. Not everybody's going to want to talk to you about your career.
And my mother always taught me that. She said, no matter if you go right or you go left, it's like somebody's going to complain about what you do. So you do what makes you happy inside, like internally. And I think when you're able to do that, you feel more at peace and you feel more free. You feel more free to just to be who you want to be in life. So and I think that's just a lot of people, they want to be that, but they get caught up. They get caught up in, because they want to keep up with everybody else. They're like, I can't go against the grain. Can't go against the current. I'm always going against the grain, most of the time in the current, because I want to do what makes me happy, what's happy for, and help make other people happy, make my family happy.
Just because you leave your sport doesn't mean your high standards go away when you're hanging up the cleats. Like, you need to carry that into that next phase of life too. So talk a little bit. You mentioned Jack Canfield earlier, and you're doing a lot of great work around motivational speaking in your coaching, in your training, and maybe just shed a little bit of light on kind of like, how did you go from leaving your career, and maybe a little bit about your Jack Canfield experience and kind of how that led you directly to what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I was going through a lot of personal problems, like with my marriage. I got divorced, and after my career was over with, and like I said, I had the issue was just I was drinking, just kind of lost myself for a while. And then Pops was always there. I mean, he was always there, just encouraging me that things were going to get better. And so he asked me, like, what do you like? He asked me, like, and I had to ask myself as well, like, what do you love to do? What are you passionate about? And I love speaking. I love running my mouth. I used to be a very shy kid. I took speech in college for 2 years because my coaches was like, listen, you have to get ready to speak in front of the camera, so you can't be all shy, put your head down, eye contact, all that stuff. So I did all of that. And I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I want to tell my story to the world. You know, one of the representatives for the USOC, she says, okay, hey, Jack Canfield reached out to us, and he has this program. It's called the Trainer Program, like TTO. And he said, like, we want a lot of the athletes to be able to take this program. It helps them with helps them with the speaking, and it helps them with stage presence, and helps them become a better leader, set their goals, figure out their passion. And they were like, hey, would you like to take it? I was like, heck yeah, I wanted to take it. She's like, well, you're one of the first track athletes that volunteered, because I wanted to be better. I've always been speaking throughout my, for the last 20-something years. And even when I was competing in track and field, and I was in the NFL, but I didn't know how to package everything up. And so when I took Jack Canfield's trainer program, he taught me how to package my message up, and to have that stage presence, and figure out, like, hey, kind of hone into, like, what my topic that I want to share with everybody, which I talk about overcoming adversity. That's because I've been through that in my life, just, many times over. And I wasn't the smartest kid in school, wasn't the smartest kid in my class, Evan. But what I did is I attached myself to kids and people that are very smart and very educated in the industry, and they're successful. And I said, could you just teach me? Because I really want to learn. I want to soak it up. As pro athletes, or with anybody, sometimes you have to just, even though you're successful, like in one industry, you have to scale back and just be at the bottom and just work your way up to the top. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just like, I've scaled back, and I'm just gradually just working my way back up to the top and surrounding myself around great people, because I want to be the best, one of the best speakers out there in the world. And I just want to be authentic doing it. I don't want to just have my message to where it's so robotic. I want it just to flow, and to be loving and caring and just giving, and people just, they absorb all that so they can change their life.
Yeah, your authenticity certainly comes through, for sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned two things that I just want to highlight for all the athletes out there. Number one, you talked about always learning and ongoing skill and technique development. You don't have all the answers. And guess what? Jack Canfield would probably tell you he doesn't have all the answers.
He will take that.
It's probably like slide one of his presentation. And I totally agree. I think we're all in the same boat. We're all continuing to learn. Even you, when you were competing for the Olympics, I'm sure you would be the first to tell us that, you needed those coaches that were kind of your technique. And I think that's so important to understand that, just because you leave athletics, it's not just, okay, now I'm a former athlete. Yes, you're a former athlete, and we're going to take those skills, a lot of them that you mentioned, and we're going to transfer that directly into what we're doing next. We may not know what we're doing, but we know exactly the type of mentality and the type of habits that it takes to be successful. So I love that you pointed that out. And then the second thing that I really love about your story, Tyree, you asked for help. You didn't sit back and obviously we can tell just by, your tone, your mindset, that that's probably not how you think, but you were not sitting back and waiting for somebody to come save you.
No.
Asking people to feel sorry for you. You went to them and asked for help. And I think that's really important.
And for me, I wanted to invest in myself. A lot of times people think, well, I don't have all this money. It's like, it doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes a lot of time. You're going out there and just networking and you're researching. We live in a world, a technical world. You can find out anything, everything. I mean, I have friends that like, well, I don't know how to lose. I don't know what to do to lose weight. And I want to get my cardio. I'm like, and it's like, if they can't get a hold of me, because I give my advice and help them out. But I'm like, you can literally go online and find out anything and everything about exercise, about nutrition. About just hydration, whatever it may be. There's literally no excuse. So you're 100% right. I was like, I want to be better, and I want to be great. I want to be successful in my life. So I have to go out there and get it. And you know what? Yeah, there was a part of me that had this fear. I was going to be real. I had this fear of like, well, man, what if I get rejected? But that's one of the biggest part of fear is that people are, you have this fear of getting rejected and the fear of failure. But you have to be able to step into that fear. And it's okay if you fail, you fail. You get rejected, somebody says no, you say next. You keep on pushing. That's because you're bound to run into somebody. They're going to be like, you know what? Hey, Evan, man, I love your story. I like your look. I like the way you talk, man. I like your drive. You're not asking for a handout, whatnot. And so, I want to work with you. I want to do whatever I can for you. And I've met many people like that.
you referenced your book, and just want to give you the opportunity to tell us, where we can either find you or find that book when it does come out.
Yeah, so my book is called Against All Odds, and it talks about like all the adversity that went through my life, and what's I'm so excited about the book is because, like I said, it's been like years in the making. I get a chance to share my story with everybody because we all have issues, right? We're gonna have issues to the day we die. So I talk about all the issues that I have to deal with and how I have to overcome it. And I think that's the beauty about, like, I'm not like the only one that has gone through my issues in life, and there's other people that have gone through it. And they kept taking steps forward, and they persevered, and they became successful. That's our hope. But many people can reach me online. I mean, you can go to my Instagram page at the real Tyree Washington. You go on LinkedIn at Tyree Washington, and also go on my Facebook, Tyree Washington. And you can go to my website too at www.tyreeswashington.com, and just send me a message, and just think about this too. All the great athletes, as you know, Evan, because you coached for many, many years, all the great athletes out there, they needed someone to hold them accountable. Late Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, I mean, all these great athletes out there, on and on and on. They have a coach. How much more do we need a coach to hold us accountable? We cannot do things on our own. I'm the type of person, and you're right, Evan, you got me pinpointed, man. It's like, I'm always like diving in, I'm hungry, I'm trying to find a way, but I can't do everything. You can't do everything. We need a team of people, because it's not about I or me, it's about we and us. Because we didn't pop out of our mother's womb and you didn't become this NFL coach. Miriam didn't do what she's done. I didn't do what I did. Like, there's people that came along the way, they came along the way in our life that helped us to get to where we want to be right now. And I think that's what we need, is that we constantly need to be coached every single day of our life.
This is why Miriam and I are so passionate about what we're doing here at Athlete Soul, is because, it's not always easy to go at it by yourself. And
right.
You do need a team, and you do need coaching. And that's why the coaching that you do is so beneficial and so valuable to those people, that regardless of whether you're just coming out of your career or maybe you've plateaued at some point in your career, just having somebody there to hold you accountable, hold you to those high standards, and really push and elevate you to that next level. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Well, we all need a boost, right? At times we all need a boost in life. No matter like what we done, you're successful, Miriam's successful. We all need a little boost, and we all need encouragement.
Yeah, I love it, Tyree. And, we really appreciate your authenticity and your message, always learning, always being willing to ask for help, and always kind of using the power of your mind and your mentality to, like we were talking about earlier, push to that next level. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to your book. Your excitement is definitely contagious. So,
that's good.
We'll look forward to checking it out and featuring it on our website and in our materials. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I appreciate it, Evan. Yeah, tell Miriam, thank you very much. And you guys have a great day.